Kenya's president says he will withdraw a hugely unpopular finance bill that was going to introduce new taxes following huge protests across the country. On Tuesday, police opened fire on demonstrators in the capital, Nairobi. Doctors say 22 people died and another 30 were treated for bullet wounds. Some people ransacked the parliament and set fire to buildings, prompting the president to deploy the military. So let's take a listen to some of what he had to say in the last hour.
Having reflected on the continuing conversation around the content of the Finance Bill 2024 and listening keenly to the people of Kenya who have said loudly that they want nothing to do with this Finance Bill 2024, I concede, and therefore I will not sign the 2024 Finance Bill, and it shall subsequently be withdrawn, and I have agreed with these members that that becomes our collective position.
Well, let's get more on this and speak to Muriithi Mutiga, who's Africa Director at the International Crisis Group based in Nairobi. Thank you very much for your time, Muriithi. What a different tone from President Ruto compared to the speech he gave yesterday, where he was talking about criminals hijacking the demonstration. A very different, much more measured tone today. What do you think's happened in the hours in between?
I think basically we haven't seen something like this in Kenya's 61 years of history. We've never seen parliament, basically the barricades breached and protesters moving into the houses of parliament. We've never seen this level of violence right in the middle of the city center. But before the violence, I have to say that we've never seen such a youth-led, mostly peaceful, inspiring, diverse protest movement. This has had a telling effect. And while the president and the ruling party seemed very determined to push through the budget, I think the pressure from the bottom up, the pressure from ordinary people that basically rejected the most of the proposals proved in the end to be telling.
What sort of difference would those new taxes, had they come into law, made to people's lives?
So two things here. One is that the president says that they would have raised about $1.5 billion, which would have gone to development projects. But we have to know that Kenya is suffering a very substantial debt burden. And to try and pay off that debt, the government has imposed an increasing number of levies and taxes on people who are already very stressed, who already, most of their income goes into family budgets. And so people felt that they had been pushed to the edge, that they didn't have extra fiscal space, and that they basically could not absorb more taxes. And so we saw that despite the removal of taxes on bread, on essential goods, still people felt it was too much of an imposition, and they rejected it totally.
So a turnaround from President Ruto, has this damaged him politically?
I think that he definitely comes out of this wounded. I think that he had been riding high for some time. He won an unlikely victory at the last election. He, is a very ambitious character. He wants to push hard, but I think he miscalculated on the economic side. I think that you always have to strike a balance. You have to strike a balance between tax, between austerity, and you have to really have a better political instinct. And I think in this case, his political instincts let him down. I think he has a lot of rebuilding to do. And also, there will be recriminations given the number of people who unfortunately lost their lives, mostly at the hands of the police. So I think this is a particular setback which he'll need a lot of work to do to recover from.
And will this energise protest groups or people who want to come together at a grassroots level to demonstrate against issues that they object to?
I have to emphasize that we really haven't seen anything like this in the past. People like me didn't see it coming. It was almost unfolding in a parallel universe on TikTok, on X, and on other social media platforms. A lot of young people, very engaged, very energized, very issue-based. I don't think this will go away. It's a powerful new force, and we'll see how it tries to shape politics going forward.
Okay, Marithi Mutiga, thank you very much for your time. Africa Director at the International Crisis Group. And let's talk about this some more, and we can speak to our Africa correspondent Barbara Plett-Usher, who's also in Nairobi. Barbara, good to have you with us as well. So what's the mood in the country today? As I was just saying to my last guest, we heard a very different tone from President Ruto today compared to the speech he gave yesterday evening. What might this mean for any further protests, or will this satisfy the demonstrators?
Well, it's only just happened, so we're waiting to find out what impact it will have. But I have to say it was an extraordinary demonstration of people power. As you said, the tone was very different. He did, of course, lay out a very clear rationale for why he thought the finance bill was necessary. But then he said, but the people aren't behind me. I also lead people and they're not with me. So we're going to withdraw this or put it on hold anyway and have consultations about how to move forward. It's not clear if that's going to take the wind out of the sails of the demonstration tomorrow. The idea of it was for the protesters to try to get Mr. Ruto not to sign the bill, because the timeline for this was that he was supposed to sign the bill tomorrow. That's obviously not going to happen now. But at the same time, this movement has become bolder and more demanding in what it's asking for. And a lot of the slogans are Ruto must go. So it's possible that we might still see demonstrators on the street demanding that. But he has clearly moved towards them. He has clearly given in, frankly, to what they've been asking for about this finance bill. And as your guest was saying, it is a very clear show of a turnaround.